All right. Well, the first question I want to ask is, I read something, an interview that you had, and it basically said that back at BAMMA 12, it said you were ready to step out of the shadows. And I was just curious, do you feel like you've done that? Do you feel like you've been able to step out and establish yourself as the guy to beat?
I certainly feel like since I've been back at BAMMA, I've got some momentum going, and I'm being more active again. You know, when I was at Bellator, you know, fighting once a year and stuff, it wasn't doing me any favours. So to be back on BAMMA and fighting more regular, I think that's certainly given me a bit more, I don't know, a bit more notoriety. But I'm just aiming just to keep put on, you know, entertaining fights, and if that means people I'm the guy looking at to fight, then that be it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I also read something that you were looking to bring out your inner aggressiveness. And whenever I hear a fighter say that, the first thing that comes into my head is that maybe training has changed, or your long-term goals have changed, or something. What is it that's really igniting you right now?
Well, I mean, throughout my career, that's probably been my weakest side of my game, the mental side of it. I had ups and downs, trying different techniques and stuff for my mental preparation. Right now, I've probably said it a million times before, but I do feel like my best state mentally, and I believe it is the best state I'm in, because I think the reason I lost to Eddie and was hesitant in my last fight was because I felt a lot of pressure,
right,
and was overthinking the situation, and it made me hesitate in the fight, and that's not my usual sort of fight style. You know, I'm quite aggressive and go forwards, and I just wasn't 100% right. While this whole camp, I felt very, very relaxed. I'm like, 5-6 days out, and I'm not going to lie to you, I don't even feel like I'm having a fight. I want to fight, and I'm super up for a fight. I feel great, but I don't even feel like I'm having a fight. Like, there's no nerves. I don't feel like I've got any pressure on me from fighting for the title to not. Like, I don't know, man. I just feel really, really good, and I'm loving this feeling mentally right now, having no pressure, and just literally looking forward to having a good fight on Saturday, to be honest.
Yeah, I do, and you know, it always makes me laugh when you got a fighter like you. I think you're 24-8, and people will say after a loss, you know, looks to get back on track or tries to get back in a winning ways. I think if you're 24-8, you're pretty much established that, you know, you've got 24 wins. I mean, when you have a career as long as yours, you're going to have some ups and some downs. And I was talking, just everything I've seen seems to be like you're on the upswing. Have you changed anything from your last fight in terms of preparation?
Have I changed anything? Yes. I'd say I have changed a few things. I felt, basically, obviously the mental side of it being the main one, just taking a lot of pressure off my shoulders. And as far as training wise, I felt like I was in the last few fights. I felt like I'm too one-dimensional, man. Like, I feel like I had just after the fight, I had a real good sit down and look at myself. And, you know, if I look at myself when I began MMA, I was all about, you know, taking guys down and ground and pounding or submitting. And then I got into striking and fell in love with striking. Then all my fights were to use my judo to stop the takedown and just strike. And that didn't work out sometimes, as you've seen in my record. But basically what I've tried this camp is just to, just become... I watch the guys on the UFC and stuff, and they're so well-rounded, and, you know, I think I've got the ability to do that. I can punch, I can kick, and I can wrestle aggressively, attackingly and defensively. So basically I've just been trying to work, on becoming more well-rounded and fluent again, like I was back in the day, of all my different ranges. So, I'm hoping to showcase that on Saturday. I feel like I've prepared well. Things are flowing nicely in the gym, It's a different thing in the cages, but... I'm hoping I can transition how I'm performing in the gym into the cage Saturday, and I think I'll impress a few people.
I think you're right, and I will tell you, I think your nickname should be the Killer, because they always talk about serial killers being really calm and like the guy next door, and then you watch a fight,
right?
And you absolutely are the epitome of like the consummate fighter, like a career fighter. You don't go out and run your mouth; you just get in there and do your business. Do you find yourself sometimes being you find sometimes being like maybe a mouthpiece for mixed martial arts or the organization that you're in because you are so well spoken? Do you find being a go-to guy?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, with BAMMA especially, I mean, obviously, because I've had to really, I'd definitely say with BAMMA, I think so. I think BAMMA, like the way I, interview and talk about MMA and them and stuff, and obviously I'd say my best performances have been on BAMMA and stuff. So BAMMA, I know BAMMA right behind me. So yeah, I do feel a little bit like I'm the go-to guy regarding stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Have you been approached, I'm just curious, have you been approached by the Ultimate Fighting Championship recently?
No, I haven't, no.
And I find that hard to believe it. And I know you're happy at BAMMA, and I love BAMMA, but it seems like when somebody gets popular in another organization, they're like, crap, we better snag that guy up before he becomes a star there. Yeah,
well, I mean, I'm not like that in my thought pattern, because then that's when I start adding silly pressures and stuff like before. But, I'm 3-1 in BAMMA, and even though the Eddie fight, I didn't get the decision, I still think I won that fight. So in my head, I'm like, I'm 4 wins in BAMMA, just on paper, but I'm just going to aim to keep performing. I'm aiming to keep performing well, not like the last fight, like the 3 previous fights. I just want to keep winning on BAMMA. Then who knows what happens? I know I've got a lot to offer. And people haven't seen the best of me yet. I really can do a lot more during a fight. It's great, being great in the gym, doing what you can do. It's hard to transition into a cage with the pressure and the lights and all the other stuff. So I just know I've got a lot to give, and I just hope, in the next 2 to 3 years I can do that. And then who knows what happens? But I know I've got a lot more to give, definitely.
Well, I want to switch gears here. I want to talk about diet, because a lot of the fighters that diet. I don't hear a lot of complaining, but I had a friend of mine who's a nutritionist for fighters, gave me a diet. I've lost 17 pounds on it, but if I eat any more tuna, I think I'm going to die. So when you're getting ready for a fight, what's the thing you don't like to eat the most, if you have any?
You know what, yeah. Like, I've got a great nutritionist, a guy called Ben Crook, Blueberry Nutrition. He sends all my stuff through on a program, and it's easy to follow and stuff. He got some really funky menus and stuff, like all the foods that, tasty, and, it's alright, man. It's just, to be honest, I don't really hate having anything. What I hate is not having my pizza, my Ben & Jerry's ice cream, my McDonald's. I more hate not having anything. I don't mind eating healthy. I feel good when I eat, when I'm on the diet, and, I'm ready to fight, but I just hate not being able to eat what I want to eat, That's the one for me, to be honest.
Well, let me tell everybody listening to this interview, if you've never been on a fighter's diet, if you've never given up things, if you've never experienced it, I can tell you what I'm doing right now is just acclimation to how fighters eat and their nutrition, and it's difficult. So when you get a Jimmy Wallhead and he steps into the cage, it's not just training, it's sacrificing what you would like,
Yeah.
And I think people forget that.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, This is gospel. I love the training. I love my lifestyle. I love going to the gym. I love teaching MMA. I love the fight. Diet sucks, man. It's miserable. Even though the food tastes nice, and the reason I do it and get on with it is because I know it's for a good cause to fight and to make my weight and to make money, and that's part of the deal. But like I said, man, people listening, you try and go, I don't know, 6-8 weeks without, eating crap. It's a long time, man. It's a long time. It gets to you.
So when you're done with a fight, you're finished with it, how long before you have that pizza?
So what? As soon as I've done the fight, depends how close the nearest takeaway is, and if I can jog there. 10 minutes? Nah. Within the hour, or at least 2 hours. By the time I get out of the venue, get some going out clothes on, and before I hit the clubs or the pub, definitely got to try and get a pizza or a cheeseburger or something nasty.
Well, speaking of horrible food, let's talk about the United States real quick, and because we have the word. If you were offered a contract, let's say BAMMA branched out and they came over to establish a presence in the United States, would you ever think about moving?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I mean, I've been caught to this before. Obviously, when I fought for Bellator, I got a 3-year work visa. At the time, me and my missus spoke about it and stuff, but, you know, we had babies and stuff, and, you know, we missed the family and things like that. But it was something I considered a little bit because of the training. But I don't know. I mean, right now at the Rough House, my team now, we've changed everything. I mean, name-wise, it was a lot bigger back in the day. Obviously, Dan Hardy, Paul Daly, Andre Winner, Ross Pearson, all the big names. But the setup in the team wasn't very good at all. Like the setup now, we've got a full-time wrestling coach, full-time striking coach, full-time jiu-jitsu coach, full-time conditioning coach, nutritionist. We've got a daily schedule, all under one roof, no travelling around. So right now, I'm pretty happy with the setup we've got. We've got a lot more numbers in the gym. So right now, would I move? Probably not. No, probably not. I wouldn't. Not right now. I'm very happy with everything. I'd like to do a couple of training trips, you know, go to the big gyms, I know ATT or you know, Black Zillions or Black House, something like that. I'd like to do some training trips, but I don't think I'd move, no.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, that was a hypothetical because you are 3-1, like you were saying in BAMMA. If you winning this fight, I mean, that would be 4-1 or 5-0 for people like me who believe you did win that fight. I mean, it's almost like Uriah Faber. You're always the number one contender. If you win, you're going to be the number one contender, period. So, I mean,
yeah.
Do you see it that way?
You broke up then. Sorry, say again, mate. Sorry.
Do you see it like I see it? Like, if you win, you're going to be the number one contender again because you're going to be 4-1 in BAMMA, and there's nobody else that I know of.
Yes.
That's going to be at that level.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Probably. I'm not thinking about it, but if that's the case, then I'm certainly happy to have a rematch with Eddie and stuff down the road. You know, I feel I've definitely got some unfinished business there. But like I said, I'm not really thinking that right now. But if that's the case, then yeah, get his fight out of the way, then probably will be chasing a rematch as the number one contender. Yeah, why not?
I only have a few more questions. I know you are a limited amount of time here, but I wanted to talk to you about Paul Daly and whether or not that fight would ever materialize.
Nah, never going to happen, man. Never going to happen. Doesn't need to happen for one, and we're friends, man. I owe Paul a lot. He's helped me out a lot in the past, helped me get established in this sport, and you know, we got him as a friend, and you know, it's just not going to happen, man. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I really don't. I don't think it's ever even going to be offered. So I will. No.
I didn't think so. And tell me if I'm right here about Paul. I believe that the incident with Josh Koscheck, someone said he was disrespectful, and I said no. Paul was disrespected by Josh Koscheck and the things he said, and frustration got the better of him. And if you know Paul today, I don't see too much of him out there saying things that would make you think he was disrespectful. I mean, when you're dealings with Paul, he's probably a lot like you. You know, well-spoken, kind of keeps to himself.
Yeah, man.
Do you agree?
Well, yeah, I'd say so. He's a great guy, without a doubt. And, you know, he's at that day with Koscheck. Yeah, he just lost his temper. I think, you know, they made a right example of him. You know, he belongs in the UFC, man. He's world-class, Paul Daly, mate. You know what I mean? You know, very exciting. Yeah, Paul speaks his mind, but yeah, Paul doesn't speak shit about someone unless they sort of deserve it or they've riled him up. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you totally there.
All right, last question here, and it's about BAMMA. What is, if you were to describe BAMMA to someone who'd never watched it or experienced it, what are they missing out on?
Say that again. Sorry, say that last bit again, mate. The signal's really bad. Sorry.
That's okay. We're jumping across the ocean here. What is a fan missing out on that's never experienced BAMMA? Who's never experienced
BAMMA? Well, without a doubt, BAMMA's the most exciting show in the UK, Europe. You always, you know, have an exciting BAMMA card. I can't think back to when I've been on or that I've spectated and thought, wow, that was boring. You got the best Britain and European and American fighters, and the British get behind it, and you see some really, really entertaining fights. I'm a huge fan of BAMMA. Feel very grateful to be part of them. And you know, I've fought in a lot of places. I've genuinely never felt how I feel about any other promotion as I do about BAMMA. I've got nothing but time for them. And you know, if you haven't seen BAMMA, tune in, and you know, I guarantee this is one of the strongest cards that coming Saturday. This is got to be on paper the strongest card to date, in my opinion. So tune in, and I guarantee you'll be very entertained.
All right. Well, that's Jimmy Wallhead. Jimmy, thank you so much for your time.
No problem, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.